Greetings, family. We are back with another presentation during this virtual marketplace. That is the Black Wall Street Renaissance Virtual Marketplace. It's Blackout Week, guys, and you know what that means? We're doing our very, very best to support Black-owned businesses because it's important that we work together to build and strengthen our community for a better future. Today, on this particular presentation, we have a very special guest, and I'm going to bring her on right now so that you guys can meet her. She is a realtor from the local area, and her name is Deborah Ann Bell. Hey, Deborah, how are you?
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I am wonderful. I'm going to be even better once I actually get you up on the screen here. There we are. Boom. Told you I had it. There we are. How are you?
Hey.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And I do want to definitely just jump in and get right into what you do. But how has this movement played a role in what you do in terms of supporting Black businesses, supporting Black realty? I actually liked a post earlier today that said Black home ownership matters. So we can put that on the back end if you want. I think that's a pretty heavy question, but I definitely want to get into that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, and how you got started.
Journey. It was basically a journey, but a beautiful journey into real estate. I always say I started when I first bought my home 20 years ago. And then 10 years later, I ended up working for a real estate trade association as a communications manager. And it just kept evolving from there. I would say 3 years after that, someone, an attorney I met who wanted me to do some marketing for him, said, "Hey, have you ever done title work?" And I said, "No." He was like, "You want to learn?" I was like, "Okay."
Right.
And that's how I became a mobile notary. I started my business as Impeccable Notary Services in 2016. And from there, I started doing some real estate investing. And then in 2009, I was like, you know what, just go ahead and get your license. So that's basically a quick summary of my journey into real estate.
Right. So would you consider that invitation your inspiration, or was it something deeper than that?
I think it started there. My inspiration really was when I bought my home. It was a bit of a tumultuous ride, to tell you the truth. And a lot of people who talk about real estate and buying a home, they're kind of scared because they've heard stories, right? But it was something about when I got the keys to my home, I walked in there, I stood in my kitchen, and I was like, everything that happened just went out the window. I didn't even care anymore. All I thought was, this is my home. I did it. You know, and that feeling was so great, it just stayed with me. Right. And I wanted other people to experience that feeling. Like, I don't want people to be afraid to say it's so much money to do this, or I heard about this horror story, I heard about that story. There's nothing like walking into your home with your keys and claiming it as your own. So I think that's my deeper inspiration.
Right, and I love that because I know we've all been there at some point in some place in time, and with something as big as home ownership, I love the way that that's your inspiration, because that makes me feel confident that in working with you, you're going to put, you know, everything into making sure that this process is something that, one, is a memorable experience, but also the fact that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's just because you realize the importance of it. So is this something that you learn over the way? How long have you been in the industry, by the way?
Totally 11 years.
11 years.
The total amount of years in the real estate industry itself, 11 years.
Okay, great. And then your goal, I mean, after being in it 11 years, I mean, that's a decade and some. You know, after seeing things and learning things, having different experiences, what can you say that, you know, you're not a newbie, you're new, you know, because I'm sure there are people who have decades and decades into it, but just given your point of reference, what would you say your goals are as a real estate agent?
My goal for me personally is build a legacy, build wealth. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is how do we build wealth individually and as a community. The Black community has been stuck at 1% wealth for well over 50 years. Why are we still at 1% wealth?
Right.
So buying Black, circulating within the Black community is everything to me. And people will tell you, when we talk, wherever I have conversations with people, it always ends up at this point. How do we recirculate our money within the community and build our wealth? What are some other ways? How can we expand our thinking and ideas about how we can build wealth? So that's first and foremost with me. You know, in terms of personally, of course, is building a legacy, you know, passing down that wealth to my family and my family's family. That's important to me. For my clients, I want them to be able to do the same thing. You can build wealth just with home ownership alone. If you're renting, that money goes in and that's it. Right?
Right.
You cannot tap into your equity because you don't have any equity in an apartment. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So having that ownership means you can tap into that. So if something happens like COVID-19 or a housing bubble like we had in 2008, you have equity. Most likely, most people have equity in their home that will help them recover quicker, right, and retain that wealth. So, of course, you know, that's my goal for my clients, and I want them to enjoy the experience, you know, and learn how to invest. Learn how to invest in the real estate.
Listen, I'm taking notes, and audience, as you're watching, I'm hoping you are doing the same because you're touching on so many key points. I mean, when you mention words like wealth and legacy, that's the exact conversation that we're having now. This is the reason that we're having the blackout and we're supporting Black businesses, because we're trying to attain wealth. We're thinking about our legacy. And so I'm glad that you touched on it. I mean, what role does real estate really play into it? Because when we think about wealth, I think most people think specifically about money, about cash, you know, but cash isn't anything, you know, especially with the economy going like it is. So real estate is definitely an option. And is this something that you kind of counsel people on? Tell me a little bit more about how people, when they connect with you, they can get more information about this wealth and legacy building.
Well, the first thing you should do if you've never bought a home is go to a first-time home buyer seminar. You should go there and learn the process. That's important, right? You want to get your ducks lined in a row, okay? For people who have already done that, they say, I've done that, I've saved, I'm ready to buy. Then I suggest to them, I say, are you interested in buying a multi-unit? And they'll say, like, what is that? Mm-hmm. It's like, you can find a multi-unit. 4 units is still considered, you know, personal, right? It's not commercial, right? Because beyond 4 units is then considered commercial. You buy a 4-unit building, you live in one of the units and rent out the other 3 units. I have a friend who's doing that right now, and it's phenomenal. It's extra income coming in. I'm encouraging even my own son, you know, like, you know, when you're ready to buy, how about you buy that multi-unit, live in one, rent out the other 3 to your friends or whoever you know, and build that wealth that way. So that's the first thing I actually suggest to people.
Okay. Now, you mentioned renting and making money. Of course, Airbnb comes to mind. Do you have clients that you work with who maybe are buying properties specifically to use for Airbnb? And then what are your recommendations for or against that whole concept?
I know other investors who do that.
Okay.
They have refurbished their home, like they moved out of their homes, and they just renovated it and use it strictly for the Airbnb. And a lot of them love it. Now, in terms of COVID was just kind of a special situation, so everybody's been affected in some shape, form, or fashion.
Right.
But the real estate market here in this area is still very strong. So, I'm actually looking for a property right now, so I can renovate it and use it strictly as an Airbnb.
Okay, so your vote is for the Airbnb concept.
I love the Airbnb concept.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned here, now, of course, we're big time now. We're virtual, so we're on Facebook. We're worldwide. True. If you could just, give your contact information for those who may be just joining in or those who may have to jump off now. I don't want them to not get this contact information about where you're licensed and where you work, and then also how to contact you.
So again, I am Deborah Ann Bell. My brokerage is EXP Realty, and it is based out of National Harbor, Maryland, which is where I'm licensed in Maryland. EXP is actually cloud-based. It's the first cloud-based brokerage ever. We have over 25,000 agents, and we're also publicly traded.
Oh, nice.
So there's a lot of opportunities with EXP alone, for us as agents to make even extra money. My handle for Instagram is DeborahAnnBellHomes.com, and Deborah is DeborahAnnBell Homes.com. And my website is the same, DeborahAnnBellHomes.com.
I love it. I love it. Well, continuing the conversation, you mentioned some points, some highlights, some things that you learned, some tips for people. But what is it that you enjoy most about the selling and buying process?
Well, bottom line for me is when we hit that closing table and it's all done.
Yes, ma'am. I can imagine.
That's important, right?
Yes, that's everybody's highlight. I love it. I love it.
Exactly. But for my clients, it's the look on their face when they're looking online, or I send them some homes and they say, this is the one I want to go see. And to walk in those homes and they start touring the homes, it's the tour.
Right.
It's everything. The look on their face, the anticipation. I can see them visualizing where they will put their furniture, where the kids will sleep, where the dog will go, everything. So I think that's my favorite part, is seeing the joy on my clients' faces when, they start touring and then they choose the final home.
Right. Now, as you're mentioning that, I know we're all visualizing these shows that we've seen on HGTV and the other networks. Is the experience really like that, what we kind of see on these reality home search TV programs?
In some cases, it's like that. Absolutely. Everybody's experience is different. People show their emotions in different ways as well. Like, some people rarely show emotions. I will tell you that as a loan closer, which is in my second business, I will be at the closing table and there will be no emotion whatsoever during the whole signing process.
Right.
And then there's something about when we say it's done, the keys, the face lights show.
Yes. I can imagine, because that's when it becomes real. When you have something tangible in your hands, it's real. And I know it's real for a lot of reasons. It's real because now you can get in your car and you can go, unchaperoned, and it's yours. And I think the other one is like, okay, now I'm responsible for this mortgage. It's real. So I mean, it can be emotional for a lot of reasons. That's a joke, but it's a beautiful experience, home ownership, and so I am so glad that you're working in an industry where you're literally making people's dreams come true. Now, you just mentioned that you have another business. Are you involved? I know you're an entrepreneur because we've talked about it. What are some of the other businesses that you're involved in?
So my first business and my first run at being self-employed and an entrepreneur is Impeccable Notary Services, LLC. We are a mobile notary company, and essentially we do just that. I go around and I close on loans. Most people know that they use the term certified notary signing agent. It's all of that.
Okay.
It's mobile notary, it's certified notary signing agent. I just like to stress in Maryland that you have to have a title producer's license. It is essential for you to close on loans in Maryland. You must have that title producer's license. And I'm saying that because I have a young lady who was my client. I'm now mentoring her, and she was listening to some other gurus who said, you don't need that. Just sign up with me, and I will have you up and running and making $8,000 a month. Oh. And I was like, okay. And they were really in her head. I want to tell this story because this is really important. She was listening to quite a few, and it was really in her head that she couldn't hear me as a practitioner and what I was saying. So I told her, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to call the National Notary Association and I want you to ask them this one question. And she wrote it down. I said, it's very specific. I want you to ask them this one question.
Right.
She said, okay. I said, tomorrow I want you to call me and tell me what they said. And she did. She called them, and she called me back the next day.
Wow.
And she said, you were right. I do need that license.
Wow.
I said, okay, now that you can hear me, let me tell you what you need to do to be successful, to get your license, and to become a certified notary signing agent.
Right. Right. Well, I love that. Not only are you an entrepreneur, business owner, you're a mentor, and that's a fabulous combination because you can understand the industry from different perspectives. Are there other businesses that you do that you want to share?
Well, in my personal life, I became a Reiki teacher master last year, and it is just everything to me.
Reiki.
It really touches to my heart, to my soul. It helped transform me as a woman, as an entrepreneur, just as an individual all the way around. And I love it. I don't know. I actually have a Facebook group here now called Reiki for Consciousness. And I just send out Reiki to, the general public. For those who want to receive it. I am not the healer. Reiki is all energy healing. I am not the healer. I'm just the conduit that, the universe uses to do the healing, So I'm just a channel. So I send out the energy. The energy goes through me, and then it's whether the person wants to receive it or not, it's up to them. But let me tell you, I have stories.
Okay.
I
love that.
Home stories, all kinds of stories. I love Reiki.
Well, we're gonna have to do another interview for that because I know those stories are phenomenal, and I'm sure in many cases inspirational. And of course, this particular conversation is about the real estate, but I think it's important to highlight the other things that you do because that's the way you connect with people. People aren't one-dimensional, Sometimes as a professional, that's how you want to keep it because that's how it has to be. But every now and then, it's okay to get a glimpse of something. Oh, you're an AKA, or you're this or that, because that builds a deeper bond. So I'm glad you were able to share a little bit more about you outside of the real estate. But just jumping back in before we come to a close, what is it that you want people to know about the real estate market right now? We're in a kind of a weird time with the COVID and with everything else going on. What are the important things that people should know?
First of all, they should know that the market is still strong. People are still buying. People are still selling. The interest rates are still low. They're at 3% or just over 3%. If you get a 15-year mortgage, they're lower than 3%, depending on your credit score. But the rates are still, historically low. The market, at least in the DMV area, is still very strong. Every market is different as you go around the United States, but it's still very strong in the DMV area. And people are still buying and selling. They're even, some people have never even walked into a home. They just did the virtual tour and did everything that way, as a result of COVID. So I would just encourage people to continue to mask up. When you go when you go into a home, make sure there's no more than 3 people. That's the rule now in Maryland. No more than 3 people in a home at one time. And, just continue to be safe and know that we're here. We're here for you. We'll walk you through the process. I'll walk you through the process, and make sure that you have all the information you need to move forward. We're here for you. I'm here for you.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Are there any additional tips, inspirational stories, upcoming events or specials or programs? A lot of times when I speak with realtors, the state or federally, they have different programs that people should be aware of that they not usually are. Anything like that in the works or any other information?
I would just say, wherever you are, just go to your state website. They have a housing website there. You can go there and see what they're offering in terms of seminars. Most seminars are happening through Zoom now, so
wow.
Just be prepared to do a seminar through Zoom. You have my contact information, 443-582-3922. You can always call me. I will send you a free home buyer's guide and get you started. And just trust the process. That's basically it. Trust the process.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us in our very first virtual marketplace that's part of the Black Wall Street Renaissance. If you're local, there is time to come out and check us out. I am here, but the action is really happening over at Everlasting Life Vegan Restaurant in Capitol Heights. That's 9185 Central Avenue. They have local vendors there set up with their tables and their products, and they're there specifically for you. So let's do our part and go out and support and shop. I know I have one more virtual interview here, then I'm on my way over to support and check everything out. So I hope to meet you there once again. That's at 9185 Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And they're going to be there until 5 p.m. this evening. But that's not the end. This event has been extended for the week in solidarity to show our solidarity for the Blackout Week. We're doing all things Black shopping this week because it's important for us to stand up as a community and support one another so that we can build ourselves up financially, so that we can fund some of the activities, the programs, and the basic necessities that we need as a community. That's the whole point and the inspiration of what we're doing. So you can catch us locally once again at Everlasting Life, but you can also connect with us virtually all week as well. The schedules are posted at the beginning of each day so that you can see who will be presenting, and you can get your credit cards ready to do your shopping. In cases like this, when we have more of a consultant where you can't necessarily buy something online, but I guess these days you could probably buy a house online, can you? You can see there are no limits. There are no limits these days, guys. So you have no excuses. Get in contact. Yes, ma'am. Get in contact with these vendors. They're doing the work for the community, and we have to do our part by supporting. So that's it for today, guys. We have one more presentation at 2 p.m. and it's going to be a phenomenal one. The presenter is Miss Tanya Hardy, and she's going to be doing some bedroom candy. So I'm announcing that ahead of time in case you want to tuck the little ones away so we can really get into some good conversation about the products that she's offering. But for now, we thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for more exciting presentations during this Black Wall Street Renaissance virtual marketplace. I'm Chris Murray, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.